Well, my name's Jonathan Ayto, and I'm from the University of York, working in the Department of Health Sciences. And I'm here to present a paper that was written by my colleague Fiona Powling. And the title of the paper is Preparing Our Students for the Best Job, Not Just Any Job. And the theme of the paper is basically looking at kind of the work we've been doing with using PebblePad to help with our students' employability post-graduation. So I'll just give you a bit of background to our use of PebblePad at York. We use it primarily for our nursing and midwifery students who record the work that they do whilst they're out in practice. Our students spend 50% of their time out on practice placements, and PebblePad's been a kind of great addition for us because it enables our staff at the university to kind of monitor the work that the students are doing whilst they're out in practice. The work's also shared with practice mentors who assess the students and provide feedback for them, and we use PebblePad to record NMC outcomes and competencies, and the students also record the practice hours that they have to do in order to kind of enter onto the register as a nurse or a midwife. Myself and Fiona and my colleague Danielle are a small team who we're known as the portfolio support team, and we basically work with PebblePad, and we've been working with it now for probably about two and a half years to try and implement the system in the department. When we first started using PebblePad, people were using it in addition to their kind of current roles, and we found that there were a few teething problems, but since we've had the kind of dedicated support team, things have tended to have gone more smoothly. So now we've managed to kind of embed PebblePad. We're now starting to explore kind of other possibilities for it, because at the moment we're just kind of using it for one thing. So we're looking at other kind of possibilities, and one of those is to help students with their employability. So in terms of employability for our students, it's actually a really kind of rosy picture at the moment. At our last cohort of nurses, 99.4% of them all gained jobs at the end of the programme, and 100% of the midwives all gained jobs. So in terms of finding a job, there's not really a problem at the moment, and as vacancies are high both in the local and the national market. However, we want to make sure that our students kind of remain adaptable, and that if there are kind of changes or kind of uncertainties that may arise, that the students can kind of negotiate that and continue to remain employable. I've highlighted just a few things that we think could be potential uncertainties for our students at the moment. The first one is the government are proposing the introduction of the role of an associate nurse to support registered students whilst out in practice. This may possibly lead to a reduction in the required number of registered nurses with a degree, which will obviously affect our students. So there's that kind of potentially on the horizon. In terms of the NHS bursary, I don't know if you're aware, but from next year the NHS bursary isn't going to exist anymore. So at the moment, all the fees are taken care of by the NHS, and from next year our students are going to have to kind of pay for the funds for themselves. We think this may affect the way that we kind of recruit. So at the moment, a lot of our students tend to come from the local area, so we have a lot of students from around North Yorkshire, and they tend to kind of study and stay all in the same area. So they'll get to kind of know the people they're working with through their practice experiences. They build a relationship with their employer, and then once they kind of know the employers, they then kind of leave university and go and work in those same areas. With the removal of the bursary, this will mean that it opens up opportunity to recruit people from overseas. So it may be that then once they graduate, they don't then stay in the local area, so they don't have a relationship with employers when they leave university. So in terms of having to sell themselves to employers, the students may have to work a little bit harder if they're kind of competing both globally and nationally for jobs. The other kind of obvious uncertainty that everyone's facing at the moment is Brexit. No one's quite sure what the implication of Brexit is going to have on kind of healthcare and the NHS. So we want to kind of make sure that our students kind of remain adaptable to all these kind of potential changes that are coming up. So, how can PebblePad help with all this? So we want our students to be able to showcase their abilities and to kind of record and evidence their professional development. And as Karen and Amy have already kind of really helpfully pointed out, PebblePad's a really great tool to be able to do this. Students can build a portfolio of all the work that they're doing, so they start using it at the beginning of the program. They're collecting evidence of all their experiences in practice. They can use the reflection tools in PebblePad. They can use the system to log their achievements. They can bring in various elements, so they can scan in certificates, they can add photographs and so on. So they can build up this body of work that kind of demonstrates what their skills and abilities are. Once they have this, it's then very easy to be able to share it with employers. So if you create your own portfolio, you can then easily kind of send it to the internet and share all your work via a URL link, which can easily be sent to employers. So we feel that having a portfolio of work will help students to stand out more than someone who's just kind of applying with a typical kind of CV and cover letter. The portfolios are quite adaptable, so I know that the NHS has a kind of standard application process, but you could easily add your kind of web link to your work on your application. So it's kind of enriching the picture that you're giving of yourself to a potential employer by kind of creating all this evidence. We also feel that encouraging our students to use PebblePad helps them demonstrate a kind of more varied skill set, so they're showing that they can use technology and kind of pull all this kind of evidence together in an online resource. So again, it helps the students stand out in that way. As Amy and Karen have also pointed out, nurses and midwives have to revalidate every 3 years at the moment with the NMC, so that's the Nursing and Midwifery Council. And again, PebblePad gives an opportunity to kind of collect all the work in one place. I really like your idea about making a workbook available for the students. At the moment we've done that for our staff who have to revalidate, but we haven't done it for the students yet, so I think that would be an idea I'd take back to Fiona. So yeah, I'd be interested to kind of see what you've got on that. So our approach at York has been to encourage the students to take up the opportunity of the alumni account. So we've always encouraged students to kind of take their work with them at the end of the programme, but we used to have to say to the students, well, you've got to pay for a licence fee each year and so on. Whereas now they can have an alumni account for free for the rest of their lives, meaning that PebblePad becomes a lifelong portfolio for them. So we make sure that all students kind of try and take the opportunity of the alumni account, and then they can kind of take all the work that they've done at university with them and keep building their portfolio kind of post-graduation. We encourage students to collect evidence right through the programme, so when it does come time to revalidate with the NMC, it's not a kind of mad dash to find things that they've kind of been building this portfolio of work all the way through. So then it will hopefully kind of make the process more straightforward. So we do this at York by we have face-to-face sessions with the students. We meet with them at the end of the programme to show them the alumni account and how it can work. The students have kind of regular training on PebblePad with Fiona and myself. So we show them all the kind of how to add evidence, how to use the collection tools and so on. So hopefully they go away with a good understanding of how the system works. We also provide online guidance for the students, so we kind of have workbooks with instructions on processing and kind of what they need to do and so on. And we also offer telephone support, so if students do get stuck, they can kind of give us a call. and we can take it from there. We recently worked with our careers service as well to try and promote the use of PebblePad as a tool to help employability. And we had a stand at our careers fair. So the careers fair happens about 6 months prior to graduation, and lots of employers come to try and attract students to make applications. And Fiona and I went to kind of promote PebblePad and show how it can be used for the students to apply for jobs once they graduate. So we have, as with anything, faced some challenges. One of the kind of main challenges to using PebblePad has been student engagement. So lots of students have indicated that they do intend to kind of keep their portfolios going once they've registered as nurses and midwives. But as with anything, that there is some reluctance. Quite a lot of students just want to do the bare minimum to kind of get through the programme. So we provide them with the workbooks in practice. They just want to complete the workbooks, show that they've met all the NFC competencies, and then that's it. So when Fiona and I come along and say, oh, you can collect all this evidence, you can reflect on what you're doing in practice, you can use all these great tools in the system to demonstrate what you're doing. A lot of the students think, well, why do I need to? Because I'm passing the course anyway, so why do I have to do extra work? And I think it's not until the reality of actually now it's time to revalidate with the NFC kicks in that they realise actually that would have been a really useful kind of thing to be doing right from the beginning. There is, as I've already said, our employability rate is quite high, so there is an assumption from the students that, well, my chances of getting a job in this course are good anyway, so I just need to make sure I get through it, and again, that they're not kind of wanting to be able to do all the extra work. So again, we have to kind of say, well, that's the situation now, but if that changes, you need to kind of make sure you're adaptable and can kind of deal with those changes. We have to try and consider the kind of timing of when to tell the students about PebblePad and kind of building this portfolio of evidence. We find that if we tell the students about it too early, that they're preoccupied with all the other things they have to do on the programme. So they're maybe not quite as willing to engage with it at that point. If we tell the students too late, then they see it as a bit of a missed opportunity that they could be recording all this evidence throughout the programme. Students generally tend to start applying for jobs 6 months prior to the end of the programme, so we tend to find that we really try and engage the students with it around the second year to encourage them to start having this kind of body of work built up by the time they start applying for jobs. Another challenge that we faced is that students are concerned about kind of how private their accounts are. So a lot of the work we have in PebblePad is set to auto-submit, and the students are used to the mentors and their supervisors going in and viewing all their work. So the students do seek reassurance that if they create a portfolio or they create work in PebblePad, that we don't instantly have access to it. We do show students how they can share their work, but we say, it is up to you. If you want to keep something private, you can keep it in your account. So it's important that they kind of appreciate that. We also try and encourage students to be mindful about what they're going to share, because obviously, the potential for PebblePad is you could collect a wide range of evidence. So we try and get them to tailor it. So think about what you need to show a potential employer, and then tailor your portfolio so you're sending specific evidence when applying for a job. So moving forward, as we know, graduate employability is high on all university agendas, particularly with the introduction of fees. So that there's a lot of kind of pressure to show that students can come out and get employment at the end. Any advantage we can give a student is valuable, not only for the student and for the university, but also for higher education's contribution to the workforce as a whole. And we feel that PebblePad is definitely an advantage. All the students have the license, they can build this portfolio, and that will help them stand out from perhaps another registered nurse that doesn't have an online kind of collection of work built up as well. Now that we've got PebblePad successfully embedded, our next step is to try and collect data on how the students are using it. So at the moment, although we're saying to students, I'll use PebblePad beyond kind of your registration, we haven't actually got evidence to show how many are using it. So we need to kind of do a postgraduate survey to collect that information. And hopefully that will help guide our approach as to how we're going to use the system. I think we've only had one group so far who've gone all the way through the program using PebblePad. So we're still kind of getting to grips with it, and it's only in the last few years that we've really realised its potential to help with employability. So now we've got that, I think we need to start kind of collecting information on that and looking at how we can develop it. So in summary, we basically think that PebblePad gives students a platform to be able to build this kind of lifelong portfolio, which they can keep adding to at various stages throughout their career. If they were to do CPD work, they can kind of then return to PebblePad and use it to kind of evidence and document what they're doing throughout. Portfolio helps to showcase both professional and personal development, and can be used as a just fantastic tool to help people promote themselves in an ever-changing marketplace. So that's it. Thank you. Any questions?